Okay, chapter 1, section 4. We're just going to do this section. We're not going to add anything to this section. I apologize that you can't see my face. I've been having some technical difficulties with my board. So 1-4 notes, sometimes, always, and never. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to identify 3 types of solutions when solving equations. Types of solutions that you can have are always true. Okay, so if you're solving an equation and you are trying to come up with a solution, sometimes you'll end up with an outcome where no matter what you put in for the variable, your answer is going to be always true. For example, okay, if the equal sign equals the same thing, so let's look at this. If I end up with have an equation that ends up x equals x, or x minus 1 equals x minus 1, or 4 equals 4, or 0 equals 0, or x equals x, or whatever you can think of, we're going to say that no matter what, the equation is always going to be true. And I'll show you an example of that here in a little bit. Another type of solution, and this is what we are used to, is when an equation is sometimes true. This happens when the variable stays and you get one value for the variable you are solving for. So you're solving the equation and you end up with x equals 3 or x equals 5 or y equals -5 or this type of solution where your variable has one solution. What that means, and listen closely, what that means is that that variable or that equation is only true when that variable is that number. Any other number will not work in that equation. Then we have solutions that are never true. This happens when your variables eliminate and your 2 sides of your equation are different. For example, if you have 0 equals 3 or -5 equals 7, that's not true. You can't have 0 does not equal -3 and -5 does not equal 7. That means the equation is untrue. It's unsolvable. It is never true no matter what value you put in for the variable. So let's look at an example. So given this equation, we're going to solve just like we were, only now we're going to have to just say, is the equation sometimes, always, or never true based on the type of answer that we have. So we have 11 plus 3x minus 7 equals 6x plus 5 minus 3x. Well, first things when we're solving equations, we're going to combine like terms on both sides. So I have 11 minus 7 on this side, which is 4, plus 3x equals, on this side, I have 3x minus 3x, which is 3x plus 5. Now we have to get our variables on the same side. We have 3x on one side and 3x on the other. So we're going to pick the smallest one, but they're both exactly the same. So what happens when we subtract 3x from both sides, 3x minus 3x, 3x minus 3x, they both cancel, and so what I'm left with is 4 equals 5. Based on that type of solution, if you look back at our first page of notes, that is never true because the 2 sides of the equal sign are not true. This is not true. So we would say this equation is never true. Now listen to my explanation. That means there is no number that you can plug in for x that will work in this equation. That's what never true means. Some books or some math books or teachers will say there's no solution. Both things mean the same thing, means there's nothing you can put in for x. All right, let's look at another example. Same thing on this one. We're going to combine like terms. So I have 6x minus 2x, which is 4x, plus 5 equals, combine like terms. I have 4 plus 1 is 5. Get your variables on the same side. So I have subtract 4x from both sides. So I have 5 equals 5. Well, is that a true statement? Does 5 equal 5? Yes, it is a true statement. So what type of answer? Is this sometimes, always, or never true? Is this equation sometimes, always, or never true? Well, if you look back at your first page of notes, we would say this is always true. Why? Because we have, this says 4 equals 4. We have an answer that where 5 equals 5. So we would go ahead and say that's always true. All right, let's try another example. Is the equation always, sometimes, or never true? Go ahead and distribute. So I have negative 27 plus 6y equals 3y minus 9, because 3 times 3 is 9. Leave your minus sign in the middle. Now I have y's on both sides of my equation, so I'm going to pick the smaller one and subtract from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 3y since it's smaller than 6y, and subtract that from both sides. Cancels on this side. 6y minus 3y is 3y. So I have negative 27 plus 3y equals, don't forget that negative, negative 9. I notice most of you are messing up your signs when you're doing equations on your homework, so be careful with those signs. Now, I can extend my page, there we go. Let's add 27 to both sides. So I have 3y equals 27 minus 9. It's going to give me 18 divided by 3. Y equals 6. So based on that type of solution, we would say that this equation is sometimes true because we have one value for y that will work in this equation. All other values will not work in this equation. So we would say this is sometimes true. So let's review that one more time. Okay? If you have a solution that says y equals 6, like this one right here, that means this equation is only true when you take 6 and plug it in for y in all these spots. Okay, if I plug that in with 6, that means this side, the right side, will equal the left side. Now let's go back and review this solution. 5 equals 5. That means it doesn't matter what I put in for x. I could put 1s in for x. I could put 7s in for x. I could put whatever I wanted, no matter what. Whatever I put in for those x's, these two equations would be equal on both sides. All possible solutions, always true. X is in the set of all real numbers, meaning any real number you put in for x, it works. And then this one, 4 does not equal 5. That means there is no number that you can plug in that equation for x that will work. Go ahead and do worksheet 1 and give it a try.